Now for this month's reconstructions. We start with a crime that made the headlines a year ago, but which is still unsolved. It's the murder of a wealthy London solicitor, Janice Weston. There appears to be no motive for the killing. She had no known enemies, there were no sexual assault, no robbery. She was battered to death in a lay-by on the A1 last September. The case is baffling, but there's a wealth of clues to follow up, and detectives here tonight are convinced that if you watch this reconstruction carefully, someone will be able to provide them with at least one of the missing links.
Our reconstruction begins at 11:20 a.m. on the 10th of September last year at Kensington Tyre Motors in West London. That Saturday, Janice Weston set out to collect the spare wheel of her Alfa Romeo Alfetta car. This wheel was to become the vital missing link in the search for her murderer. Janice was seen shopping near her home at Holland Park at around midday. She was a solicitor and had told friends she'd be completing work for a client and staying in London over the weekend. Janice had been married for just 15 months to property developer Tony Weston. Together they'd bought this country house in Clopton near Northampton, which they were converting into luxury apartments. This particular weekend, with her husband away in France on business, Janice called into her office at Lincoln's Inn. The exact time isn't known, but it was sometime on Saturday afternoon. Janice was a partner in the firm Charles Russell & Company, and at 36 was at the peak of her professional career. She was successful, popular, and led a busy social life. She'd gained a reputation as an international expert on company law, and was also completing a book on a specialist interest of hers, computer data protection. On that Saturday afternoon, an eyewitness reports seeing Janice frequently looking out of the office window, as if she were expecting someone.
Hello, Charles Russell. I'm afraid he's not. Can I help you?
Police know that she was still in the office at 4:45 p.m. because she took a phone call for a colleague. Piecing together the evidence, police believe that later that afternoon, Janice returned to her basement flat in Addison Avenue, West London, and made herself a meal. But then, contrary to what she'd said to friends about staying in London that weekend, she evidently decided to leave. She gathered together the remnants of her meal, which included a partly drunk bottle of wine and a half-eaten loaf of bread, and with an overnight bag and a purse containing £37, she set off. Yet strangely, she left behind her handbag. It contained her chequebook and all her credit cards, but she did take with her the keys to the country house in Clopton. It was unusual for her to set off for the manor house alone, if indeed she did set off alone. And it would have been very uncomfortable there with the renovations in progress. Driving north up the A1 towards Northampton on Saturday night, the traffic was heavy. Police believe it must have been 9 p.m. or later by the time she reached the Huntingdon stretch of the A1. Just north of Huntingdon, only 16 miles from her country home, she pulled into a lay-by. Later, forensic evidence found traces of grease on her fingernails, which suggests that the reason she pulled in here was to change the wheel of her car. But Janice Weston wasn't alone. Police still don't know whether her killer followed her into that lay-by or had been in the car with her. Janice Weston was killed by a series of blows to the head, so ferocious that it took police 3 days to identify her. The next day, Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, David Hurst is cycling along the A1 on a 12-hour time trial for the Luton Wheelers Cycling Club. As usual, he'd arranged with his wife to give him refreshment along the route. It so happened she chose to wait for him in that same lay-by where Janice Weston's car had been that previous night.
Yeah, fine. Cold. Why don't you pass? No, terrible. No, I should be all right. Be all right. I'm just going to go here.
At almost the same time, just 23 miles away at Royston, a man called into CB Car's garage with an apparently straightforward request.
You make number, please? No, I'm sorry, we don't, but they do in the store next door. Thanks.
He made his way to Auto Spares, where his purchase was to become one of the most mysterious aspects of the whole case.
Do you do number, please?
Yes.
How long?
A few minutes, so in between customers.
Good.
Okay. A pen
Yeah.
and number.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, I'll give 2 minutes.
Okay.
He didn't state what number he wanted, but handed over a scrap of paper. That number was already on police files. It was Janice Weston's number. Redhill Street in Camden, northwest London. 4 days after Janice Weston's death, her Alfa Romeo Alfetta car was found abandoned on a parking meter. Inside, police found the keys to her London flat and to the country home. They also found her purse. Nothing had been stolen. But when they opened the boot of the car, the spare wheel was missing. The tyre that she'd collected that Saturday morning had now been put on the rear near side of the car. But the other wheel was gone and has never been traced. Well, heading the investigation is Detective Chief Superintendent Len Bradley of Cambridgeshire Police. There are many, many strange aspects about this case. Have you any idea what the motive might have been for the murder?
Well, certainly I think I can rule out robbery and sexual attack. The other theory, one theory we have possibly, is Janice was accompanied along that road. They stopped to change a wheel and there was a disagreement, and then Janice was battered to death in that lay-by.
So you think she may have known her killer?
Most certainly, yes.
Who was that man at Royston asking about those number plates?
Well, this could, again, be an incredible coincidence. The man could have purchased those number plates for a stolen vehicle. And if that is the case, I hope he will come forward, because I'm not really interested in prosecuting him for or being connected with theft of vehicles. But, of course, if he is connected with the murder, then I want to know from any person in Royston who was about on that Sunday morning, which was quite a quiet Sunday, and any information will be gladly received in respect of that man.
What clues do you have about what happened to Janice's car after the murder?
Well, almost certainly the car was facing in a northerly direction, and it would either need to cross the carriageway or go further up towards the Brampton Hotel, and then it traversed the road backwards towards in a sort of different direction completely towards London. and was found, as you've said, in Redhill Street, Camden Town area, and almost certainly abandoned before lunchtime on Sunday the following day.
And what about the mystery of that missing wheel? Why do you think it is missing, and where do you think it might be?
Well, it could have been discarded in a hurry and left on the lay-by, and it could have been picked up during the night before the police were called to the murder scene, in which case I hope even that person might come forward to be eliminated from this murder inquiry.
What is distinctive about the wheel?
It's distinctive in as much as it's an Alfa Romeo wheel. It has 20 air vent holes round the wheel, and it also has the centre boss, which has the Alfa Romeo motive thereon.
So we hope somebody might have found one like it somewhere along that route.
Yes, somewhere along the route on the A1 on that weekend, the 10th of September 1983, with a Michelin tyre on.
Can you briefly sum up then what you're hoping people tonight might be able to help you with?
Well, I'm interested in tracing the man who purchased the number plates. I want to hear from anybody who saw Janice after 4:45 p.m. on the Saturday, either driving her car or in the lay-by at Huntingdon. And I also want to hear from anybody who has seen anybody acting suspiciously in the lay-by, or who may have bloodstained clothing or returned home that weekend bloodstained, or any person who might have seen any discarded bloodstained clothing.
Mr. Bradley, thank you very much. And if you think you can help, do please ring us. You can talk to the detectives here, or if you prefer, you can talk to a BBC researcher in absolute confidence. The number is 01811 8055. The lines are open now, but if you can't get through, please keep trying. Or you can call Cambridgeshire Police direct at Peterborough 63232. That's 0733 for Peterborough 63232.